State the permissible or constitutional limits to the delegation of legislative power by Indian legislature. Explain the basis of those limits. Ans. Delegated legislation as discussed above means delegation of function of legislation to organs other than legislature by legislature itself and is generally expressed as rules, regulations, bylaws, etc. Delegated legislation is well recognized by Constitution of India as Article 13(3) defines the law as including any ordinance, order, bylaws, rule, etc. having force of law. There is nothing in Constitution prohibiting legislature to delegate. However, at the same time it is well settled that essential and primary legislative functions must be performed by legislature itself and cannot be delegated to executive. There is no agreed formula with reference to which one can decide the permissible limits of delegation or that when the law will be bad on account of excessive delegation, thus every case is decided in its special setting. The tendency on the part of the courts is to uphold the delegation, and it is only rarely that a statutory provision may be struck down on the ground of excessive delegation. Constitutional permissible limits on the delegated legislation. I. Essential legislative function. I. Laying the policy of the Act and enacting that policy into a binding rule of conduct cannot be delegated by the legislature. 2. While what constitutes an essential feature cannot be delineated in detail, it certainly can't include a change of policy. 3. After the legislature has exercised its essential legislative functions, it can delegate non-essentials, however numerous and significant they may be. 4. The delegated legislation must be consistent with the parent act and must not violate legislative policy and guidelines. Delegate cannot have more legislative powers than delegator. The delegated legislation in order to be valid must not be unreasonable and must not violate any procedural safeguards if provided in the parent act. 6. Subdelegation of legislative powers, in order to be valid, must be expressly authorized by the parent act. It will be useful to reproduce here a passage from Administrative Law by Wade and Forsythia, 8th edition 2000 at page 839. Administrative legislation is traditionally looked upon as a necessary evil, an unfortunate but inevitable infringement of the separation of powers. But in reality it is no more difficult to justify it in theory than it is possible to do without it in practice. There is only a hazy borderline between legislation and administration, and the assumption that they are two fundamentally different forms of power is misleading. There are some obvious general differences. But the idea that a clean division can be made, as it can be more readily in the case of the judicial power, is a legacy from an older era of political theory. It is easy to see that legislative power is the power to lay down the law for people in general, whereas administrative power is the power to lay down the law for them, or apply the law to them, in some particular situation. The question whether any particular legislation suffers from excessive delegation has to be decided having regard to the subject matter, the scheme, the provisions of the statutes including its preamble, and the facts and circumstances in the background of which the statute is enacted. See Registrar, Cooperative Societies v. K. Punjabmu, AIR 1980 SC 350 and State of Nagaland v. Ratan Singh, AIR 1967 SC 212. It is also well settled that in considering the vires of subordinate legislation one should start with the presumption that it is intra vires and if it is open to two constructions, one of which would make it valid and other invalid, the courts must adopt that construction which makes it valid, and the legislation can also be read down to avoid its being declared ultra vires. St. John's Teachers Training Institute V. Regional Director, National Council for Teacher Education AIR 2003 SC 1533, in Maharashtra SB, OS and HS Education V. Paritoshaya 1984 SC 1543. It was observed that the question whether a particular piece of delegated legislation, whether a rule or regulation or other type of statutory instrument, is in excess of the power of subordinate legislation conferred on the delegate has to be determined with reference only to the specific provisions contained in the relevant statute conferring the power to make the rule, regulation, etc., and also the object and purpose of the Act as can be gathered from the various provisions of the enactment. It is exclusively within the province of the legislature and its delegate to determine, as a matter of policy, how the provisions of the statute can best be implemented and what measures, substantive as well as procedural, would have to be incorporated in the rules or regulations for the efficacious achievement of the objects and purposes of the Act. It is not for the court to examine the merits or demerits of a policy laid down by regulation-making body, because its scrutiny has to be limited to the question as to whether the impugned regulations fall within the scope of the regulation-making power conferred on the delegate by the statute. Any drawbacks in the policy incorporated in a rule or regulation will not render it ultra vires, and the court cannot strike it down on the ground that, in its opinion, it is not a wise or prudent policy, but is even a foolish one, and that it will not really serve to effectuate the purposes of the Act. The constitutionality of the regulations has to be adjudged only by a threefold test, namely, 1. Whether the provisions of such regulations fall within the scope and ambit of the power conferred by the statute on the delegate. 2. Whether the rules, regulations framed by the delegate are to any extent inconsistent with the provisions of the parent enactment. And lastly, 3. Whether they infringe any of the fundamental rights or other restrictions or limitations imposed by the Constitution. In Hukum Chand v. Union of India, AIR 1972 SC 2427, it was observed that unlike sovereign legislature, which has power to enact laws with retrospective operation, authority vested with the power of making subordinate legislation has to act within the limits of its power and cannot transgress the same. The initial difference between subordinate legislation and the statute laws lies in the fact that a subordinate law-making body is bound by the terms of its delegated or derived authority, and that court of law, as a general rule, will not give effect to the rules thus made, unless satisfied that all the conditions precedent to the validity of the rules have been fulfilled.